Okay, so we went through announcements. Reminder of our agenda today. I had some announcements, and now we're getting into a narrative. Like, what is a narrative, and how is this going to be an assignment? I'm going to hopefully answer those questions. So our learning goal today is that you will be able to write a narrative using first person point of view for two characters in a story. But you're like, wait, what is a narrative? Okay, so a narrative writing is a style that focuses on telling a story. And this style uses techniques that rely on point of view, characterization, descriptive imagery, and plot. So we've got this strapping lad here. What's his story? So let's think about him as we go through what is a narrative. So we can kind of get a glimpse of the setting. We see a little bit of what he's like. So when you're writing, you want to focus on your plot and your point of view. So what actions does this character take? Okay, some of you might know who this character is because you've watched Game of Thrones. If you've never watched Game of Thrones, that's okay too. You can see that he's kind of a mountain man looking guy. So if you were writing a narrative, if you were telling a story about him, you would include the actions that the character makes, things that he says, things that he does. And you would follow the plot of the story, and you would tell it from his point of view. So when you're writing a narrative, I'm going to ask you to specifically write a narrative in first person point of view. So if we're writing a narrative and we're imagining that we were this gentleman, we would write out things like his thoughts. And in his writing, you would be using words like I, me, myself, we, are, that kind of thing. Oops, let's go back one. Descriptions. So since we're writing in first person, you're going to also include what does that character see, smell, taste, feel, hear, etc. So you're building the universe that he sees. And in a narrative, this is where it can be a lot of fun, is you bring in a character. You make this guy a character. So if you're trying to answer, like, what is this guy's story? He would have a distinctive way of talking. He would have unique perspective that shows his personality. So the way he thinks would be different than another person. His motivations would be different. His beliefs, his values, his favorite foods, they're going to be different than someone else because he's a different person than someone else. So, like, I imagine that this guy probably, like, eats caribou and that he's never eaten pizza in his life. Okay. So if I was to write just a couple sentences, and what I'm trying to do is tap into this guy's voice. I would like to play a little bit and write phonetically so it kind of sounds like him. So this is my example of me pretending to be this guy right here. Yar can see the clouds be blowing out of the south. I'd bet my last moccasin that storm is a danger a brewin'. I'd hug your lucky rabbit foot tonight, lasses. Okay, so I imagine that that's the way this guy talks. That this is something that he would be saying, that he, like, looks off into the distance and he would say this type of thing. So in my example, I have intentionally misspelled words like yar, like instead of you. I dropped the G's in some of these to get that effect of blowin', brewin'. And I put some figures of speech, like I'd bet my last moccasin, or some actions that maybe show what his beliefs are. I'd hug your lucky rabbit foot tonight. So maybe he's a superstitious kind of person. Now, how does this fit into your assignment? What I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to ask you to pick two of the characters that we've looked at before and write from their perspective. So now's the time that we're going to switch into assignment mode. I have put the assignment in K-12. I would really prefer it if you did it in Google Classroom. It's It's going to be easier if you do it in Google Classroom. So this is what I'm going to do. I know that we have a new student. Don't worry, I got you. What I will do is I'm going to go back to my class, get my class code, and I'm putting this in the chat. So if you aren't sure if you've joined this class on Google Classroom, I really only use it, I've only used it like the last few assignments. So click that link. If you are 100% against Google Classroom, you can do it in K-12, but it may be more difficult.